We're going to continue our discussion here dealing with light, and as it pertains, I like to call it the essence of photography because it is what we have to do our job. And what this discussion we want to talk about is the viewer's perception or reaction to the type of light, but also how to utilize the light to make a visual statement. Now, light gives emphasis to a photograph, and emphasis, we know, reflects the feeling or mood of a photograph. It's extremely important, and it is in this mood where we will connect with the reader. You have an emotional reaction to every photograph you see. You accept or reject very quickly. Where you want to do is connect your reader at a deeper level so you will engage them in your photographs. Now, a quick breakdown of these two areas to start with is quite simple. Dark toned images relate a sense of aloneness or isolation, almost even a sense of foreboding. Regardless of the content, if the tones are that way, you will have that mood or feeling being conveyed to your subject. Likewise, a lighter toned image will be taken in a lighthearted approach. Even if it's something that might be a little more serious, it may not be viewed as a disaster. It may be just give you a chuckle. Kind of depends. Now, both of these photographs have a distinct mood and feeling that goes with their content, but it also goes beyond the content. The tonal ranges are set and the viewer is interpreting them subconsciously. In photography, we talk about an image on the left as a low-key image. Conversely, the image of the dog up on the right is a high-key image. These terms are used quite a bit in photography, and you'll use them down the road if you continue to take classes with us. Your viewer's eye always goes from the dark area of a picture to the lighter area of the picture. Your eye is searching for information. You do this, I do this, everybody does this. So now if you know that, now you can understand how a reader is going to start to dissect the image that you are going to show them. An easy way to remember this concept is like a moth to the flame. We are attracted to the light. Now this works for both color and black and white. But one of the things in color that you should always be aware of is to compose your image in such a way that the colors you're using, your color won't overpower your composition. Let me give you an example of this. You're supposed to shoot a photograph of 5 people in a group shot. One guy shows up with a bright red sweater. Well, if you're thinking quickly, you'll take the guy with a bright red sweater and you'll place him in the back row. Mainly because you know that if you place him in the foreground, everybody's eye is going to be gravitated towards that red sweater because we're attracted to bright colors, and nobody else, you're not going to see anybody else's faces in the picture. So this is the type of thing that with color in this type of drawing of the eye, you do have to be careful about these things. But in black and white, there are the same type of pitfalls, but you're working with tonality. Now in this example of this picture, you will see that there's a lot of area for the reader's eye to roam around in. And yet, because of the tonality, the darker areas and the lighter areas, the reader's eye is drawn to the bench and to the man smoking, which is what I intended all along. This is manipulation on my part. Those shaded areas that you see there in the photograph were not there. I placed them in as I printed this picture. Distorting the image a little bit? Yeah, just a tad to give emphasis to the photograph. This viewing of the image that way from the darker to the lighter is involuntary. You can't change it, you can't help it. It's just the way you are wired. So great photographers throughout the years have used a combined set of compositional and technological methods to create unique and exciting compositions. Edward Steichen was one of those, and in this picture called Windfire, he used a long exposure, a windy day in midday light, which is not the best for photographers to shoot in, and a very slow shutter speed to create the flapping action, to capture the flapping action of the chiffon dress of the dancer to create what looks like she is on fire. And a very interesting creative approach to a light situation that does not seem to be the best. An example of a pro making something out of nothing. Ansel Adams, who is obviously known for his great landscape, also did a lot of portraits. But you'll see the same strong content-driven approach with harsh light, dark tones, and in this case, shooting below the subject to give this subject a sense of power and dominion over the viewer. All of these impressions come along when you take a camera in your hands. So just as a photograph gives life to a page of type in a magazine or a newspaper or even a web page, light gives life to the photograph itself. And the more conscious you are of that light, the more you'll be able to use it and work with it. So what are the types of light? Well, we've talked about high-key and low-key photographs, but let's talk about the actual natural light, like from the sun. Most photographers shoot when they begin with, they're told that light over the shoulder with bright sunlight is the best light to work with. Well, that's not exactly true. It's the most common form for non-professional photographers. But too often, all this does is just gives you a rather lifeless, dull, boring picture. You have to be able to work with the light. The photographer must control the light to be successful. You do that through the exposure equation we've already talked about. Different types of light, like direct sunlight or open shade, will give you dramatically different interpretations of a subject. Direct light will be harsh, and that's where there is no obstruction from the light of the sun, whereas open shade, the light is reflected from everything around the subject. Now, direct light creates very deep shadows. For instance, go out and take a photograph of somebody in direct light and have them put on a baseball cap. See if you can capture their eyes in that photograph. Very difficult to do. Whereas if you take that same person and you put them in open shade on the shaded side of a building, follow your meter and exposure and shoot it correctly, the eyes are not going to be a problem whether they're wearing the cap or not. This is using the light in a creative method. Now, when clouds come in, that can change the equation again. Again, the light becomes what we call diffused. And when it's diffused, it is the best light for utilizing and saturating colors. What we mean saturating colors is reds are redder, blues are bluer, yellows are more yellow. Now, this may seem like a contradiction from the bright sunlight, but what this basically means is those foggy days in January and February, where the light is really diffused by the fog, a lot of colors are more saturated in those days than any other. So when these lights, when the fog comes in, or the fog or the clouds, something like that, this is called ambient light, and it is very interpretive light. It gives a different feel to the subject. If you want to shoot your future mother-in-law, shoot them in ambient light. Don't shoot them in direct sunlight. They'll write you out of the will. It's not going to be a good idea. So the quality of light is expressed in terms of how much diffusion there is. Very important for you to remember. The more diffusion there is, the better the light is overall. These are just some of the very important elements of the quality of light that you need to be aware of the more you shoot.